I was looking for body-centered psychotherapy master's degree programs, some kind of somatic psychology program, and had found nothing in the Midwest. It was all either on the East Coast or the West Coast, and I was not interested in moving to the East Coast or the West Coast and felt really stuck. I was really determined, however, not to do anything until I found a program that fit me and that required that it be body-based. So I met Susan Cahill, who's a dance movement therapist, and she told me what she did, and just the light bulbs went off. And it was this combination of both light bulbs, but also like, oh, could I really ever do that? I'm not a dancer. I don't identify at all as a dancer. So it felt both very exciting to think about moving into this arena that I knew so little about, like a new frontier, really, for myself personally. But also thrilling to learn that there was a whole other group of people who were integrating the body and the mind, which is really my first love in this work. The audition was incredible because, again, I'm not a dancer. And here I was standing in this room of people who were such confident movers and were so unbelievably beautiful and creative in their bodies. And I had had some training in embodied movement, I would call it, just how to move in a way that was really reflective of what I was feeling or thinking or experiencing in the moment. So I really relied on that little bit of experience I had to get me through that audition, but I felt like a fish out of water. And then I got into the program, and you know, as it went on, I realized that, or I was told, I think, somebody told me they weren't really looking for people who move perfectly. They were really looking for that kind of capacity to move more authentically. I decided to drop all of my professional identity, really, and go to massage therapy school. So I got certified in massage therapy. It was a real learning environment for me, and there were many things about it I loved, most particularly that I got very involved working with survivors of trauma. It became my specialty as a massage therapist to work with people who'd had a lot of trauma, including torture survivors from many countries, who I worked with for 12 years, mostly doing massage therapy, and learned so much from that population. But one of the things I learned was that I wanted to do more than just touch. But once that had kind of lost its charm for me, I decided that it was time to actually go and get the credentials to be a psychotherapist. I had full credentials now to be a body worker and someone trained in body-mind integration, but I really needed that licensure because I was indeed really doing a lot of psychotherapy. So that's what led me to dance movement therapy. In my private practice, I see primarily adult individuals. I have worked with couples, and I do also teach a psychoeducational group on becoming safely embodied. And I have taken people from the psychoeducational group and formed a process group, an ongoing process group. And I may do that again in the future. Yeah. So I do work with groups, couples, and individuals. The foundation of my work, and I say this to every client every time I have a first session, the foundation of my work is mindfulness. The ability to name and report on, to track and notice and name what's happening in the present moment. So when my client and I develop the ability to be mindful together, what we're tracking and noticing are the various ways the brain processes information. So we're tracking the back of the brain, sensation and movement, and survival response. We're tracking the middle of the brain, intense, implicit emotional memories. and less intense, more explicit adult emotions. And then we're tracking the front of the brain, the intellect, the thought process, the belief system. So I teach my clients about all those parts of the brain and how to track and notice all of those parts of their own experience. And then we work basically creating small experiments that help people learn how to be mindful and notice how they respond in real time to simple experiments like moving their chair a little closer to mine or a little farther away, or what happens when I reach out to them like this. I always felt strongly that one of the benefits of being a psychotherapist was that you have to do self-care in order to be effective. You have to. And it was like, oh, okay, I have permission. I have lots of permission to take care of myself, to develop myself, to make sure that the work I'm doing is not taking too much of a toll, and whatever it takes to make sure that I can still, that I am recovering from the work I have to do. For me, that's included, the basics of nutrition and exercise, and getting my own psychotherapy. It's also included getting lots of supervision, having lots of mentors who are always teaching me kind of to move beyond my own edges. And probably most importantly over the last few years, it's meant having a spiritual practice. The actual work of being present to someone who's had a tremendous amount of pain and suffering in their lives is a very spiritually challenging experience, and it's helped me immeasurably to have a practice, to have a meditation practice, to constantly be thinking about and finding my own answers to the big questions of why people suffer and why there is so much hurt and suffering in the world. So all of that has, I hope, given me ability to sit across from someone and kind of transmit a nervous system that is settled and loving and accepting of whatever they say, whatever they tell me, whatever they're expressing at any moment. And that's taken a ton of care and self-development. And it's been worth it, every bit of it. My name is Andrea Gunderson, and I call myself a body-centered psychotherapist. I'm a licensed clinical professional counselor with a background in massage therapy, dance movement therapy, and sensory motor psychotherapy.